So we're here with Matt Watson, Southampton FC's senior club photographer. Now you shoot primarily on a 1DX Mark II.
Correct.
So you're real hands-on all the time. You're at the training sessions, the football matches, anything else?
Everything in between.
Anything in between. So you shoot portraits and things on it
Absolutely,
too, I guess.
yeah, correct. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Now I have the Mark III here. I'd like to think I'd get the most use out of it, but between you and I think you're going to be a bit more qualified. So I'm going to quite happily pass that across to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
I've got my guest pass, so we're going to head out onto the training pitch, see the guys, and put it through its paces.
Let's do it.
We're not going to get too tech heavy in this video, as there's stacks of info out there on the Mark III already, but in case you've somehow missed it, the headline features are as follow. A 20.1 megapixel full frame sensor, 5.5K RAW internal video, 4K at 60p, a new Digic X image processor, up to 20 frames per second continuous shooting, dual pixel CMOS AF, a gigabit Ethernet connection with built-in Wi-Fi, and one of the more interesting features is its deep learning autofocus. Whether you shoot sports, wildlife or photojournalism, the EOS-1D Mark III will have you covered with its striking improvements to its speed and autofocus algorithms. With a brand new sensor and no pixel increase, some critics have questioned this, but with so much else going on inside the Mark III, the lack of more pixels is little to worry about. The 20 frames per second continuous shooting in live view mode, or the 16 frames per second through the optical viewfinder, allows for bursts of up to 1,000 images to be taken, giving you nearly a whole minute's worth of burst shooting for your long action sequences. This is like a machine gun going off, and the Mark III just carries on going. The benefits of JPEG images are that they are compressed, small, and easy to share right away, but they do lack the ability to push the shadows and highlights when in post. The Mark III has a new file format known as HEIF, or High Efficiency Image Files, which give users a 10-bit structure with an increased dynamic range, fewer artifacts, and more room to move whilst editing, yet still keeps the file sizes reasonably low when compared to the 8-bit JPEG equivalent. Focusing on the Mark III is something of a dream thanks to the new Digic X processor. You get 191 autofocus points compared to the Mark II's 61, with 155 being cross-type. These all provide fast and accurate focusing. Something new is Canon's deep learning feature, which sounds like some sort of AI system, and it's really rather clever. When subject tracking is on, the deep learning targets heads and faces, even when wearing helmets or masks. Canon has actually said that the camera can recognise full bodies, which is ideal for shooting sports and keeping your chosen player or athlete, however erratic, sharp within your frame. This is also beneficial for wildlife shooters too, when animals are on the move whilst you're out trying to capture them. Many pro users in sport and wildlife use back button focusing rather than the shutter, and the Mark III has a lovely big and easy to access AF on button, but now it has a sensor built into it, which is a little bit like an optical computer mouse that allows your thumb to slide about and move your autofocus points around. You no longer have to move your thumb off the AF button, across to the joystick, move your points and back to focus. It's simply all operated through one single button. It would take some getting used to, as it felt really sensitive whilst we used it, but you can dial this down throughout the menu settings. Video wise, Canon appeared to have surprised many users with just how much the Mark III can do. The main feature to shout about is the internal 5.5K RAW video mode that captures a massive 2.6 gigabits per second to a CF Express card. Now that's a huge amount of data, approximately only giving 12 minutes worth of footage onto a 128GB card, but having that raw workflow in post and the flexibility to match your content up to the bigger C500 and C200 is a real game changer. We've also seen how quickly media card capacities increase, so there's no doubt that 1 or 2 terabyte CF Express cards will be readily available in the not so distant future. Another thing to note is that you unfortunately do not get any of the AF functionality when shooting in 5.5K RAW, due to the processor working so hard. If this res is a little bigger than you need, you can oversample to output at 4K 60 or 30p or lower, where the dual pixel AF and the focus guides become available again. Switching across to C-Log, you can capture your 422 10-bit color profile, giving you the best possible footage for post-editing and colour grading. The dual CF Express card slots really allow the Mark III to utilise its capturing and processing power all internally. Without these high-speed cards, it would just not be possible. The two slots allow you to save to different cards, but also back up in stills and video. A nice thing that Canon has unlocked is the capability of saving your 5.5K RAW video to one of the cards, and a lower 4K file to the other, giving you the confidence your content is safe without the need for an external recorder, which would bulk up your gear setup. We find the same LPE19 battery from the Mark II, which is great for pros currently using this system. With less hassle swapping gear over and buying extra batteries, you can simply share them between the two cameras if you're using the Mark II as a backup to your Mark III. Something to note is the vast improvement to the efficiency of the Mark III, now being able to capture up to 2,850 shots on a single charge, well over doubling that found on the Mark II.
Okay, yeah, so I've just got back in from shooting for the first time with the 1DX Mark III. Probably the first thing off the bat, what I enjoyed the most straight away is obviously the new touch-sensitive back focus button. Obviously for me, it comes into use quite a lot when I may need to shoot a player in the centre of a frame, in the right of the frame and left of the frame, for our web guys to use in the correct way. So I may try and get a shot of a player straight off the bat, and you might get a perfect opportunity where they're walking towards you. So to be able to do that in one hit without coming away from the camera was a big plus. The one thing I stumbled across it by accident was the touchscreen on the back. When you're reviewing your images, being able to sort of scroll through, which seems quite iPhone-ish, but the most important part of it was being able to zoom in. And I think this will be useful during games when you're in these high pressure moments when there's been a goal and you're going to send an image straight from the back of the camera. Those small little advantages where I can just pinch in zoom, move around to see what part of the image is in focus, make sure it's in focus before I send the image. It's only a small difference from spinning the wheel as it were before, but that I think will make a lot of difference. The focusing system, obviously there's been a big jump in improvement, and I could see that straight away from just the way it was locking onto players. So I've only had the camera in my hands a matter of minutes, so whether it is or isn't the new algorithm that's been built into the focusing system, I'm not sure, but there was an instance just now where there was a player that had a ball and he's running with a ball, there's players moving in front of him, there's maybe some of the training posts are in front of him, but while I tracked him, he stayed in focus the whole time and I kept the trigger down. Having the 16 frames per second, that helped as well. He seemed to be in focus the whole time. A big plus, one that is probably going to help me get more things sharp, which is what I'm looking to do as much as possible. Obviously in this industry, every frame counts. When there's a goal, a celebration, you want every single frame. So to have 16 frames per second is going to allow you to capture every single little moment and piece that together. And one thing I did notice was it seems like a marginal, but you can pick up in how quick the camera was at shooting. So that'll be something that'll be a massive plus, just getting every single little piece. There's times when you'll shoot a celebration sequence and the player will run towards you and you think, oh, that's great. And he's looking slightly that way, and then he's looking down the barrel, and then he's looking that way. That little moment when he's looking down the barrel is the shot that I want. So having the extra frames is going to give you these little margins that will make you'll hopefully notice these subtle little differences that make a picture rather than just a mediocre picture, as it were. So I guess the one drawback of shooting at 16 frames per second, if you're gonna fill a card up pretty rapidly, and ultimately it means more editing, which is a bit of a pain, but it's a good problem to have, I suppose. One thing I did notice, there was no buffering at all. So the new card system seems to be working well. There was no buffering at all in that session that I had just then. Camera feels good in my hands. Maybe slightly lighter. I haven't checked the specs, but maybe slightly lighter than the Mark II. But it felt good in my hands. Personally, I would upgrade, because at this level, you're up against people that are alongside you, so you want any little margin that you can get on the competition. And I personally feel that this does give you those little margins of improvement that will take you to that next level and could potentially get an image that is an image that you're going to want, or that's going to be that's going to be used with and engaged well, which is what I'm trying to do, is get our pictures used and engaged with well on our social channels.